this is kind of the lot things that happen in our lives that are life changing. But my son Dak was turning 5, and I asked the owner of the jewelry company I work for if I could have a Friday night off because we're gonna have a birthday party for my son Dak, who was turning 5. And he told me no. He says, no, I need you to be there because it costs me money if you weren't there. Because I was the manager of the store, and I was like, I couldn't believe that because I had just opened the store. I had been working, 60, 70 hours a week for a month or so. And then he told me I couldn't even attend my son's 5th birthday. And that was really that happening to me was the impetus that made me decide I was never going to work for somebody again, that I was going to figure out a way to be successful in something else, in a business of my own, where I didn't have to ask somebody for time off, And so that happened, and that's what got me to think about going. And that, so I recontacted the person that had talked to me about the business, and I said, look, I'm ready to go now. And then so I started part-time, and took me about a year to get to the point where I quit my job and went full-time. But it was all started from my boss in the jewelry business telling me I couldn't have basically 3 hours off to attend my son's 5th birthday. So
yeah, I think it's interesting because, Hector, you had talked about how you were always looking for a way to become successful. In that perspective, because when you end up at that moment, we've recruited thousands of people who maybe ended up in a similar situation, and they said, oh, I'm just too busy and I don't have the time to make Primerica happen, versus I know a similar thing happened to me. I'd gotten my pay cut. Brandon had followed up with me, and it was like, all right, I've got to do something, And I think the perspective of that, I am no longer going to allow somebody to control my paycheck. I'm going to go build a business, versus what most people's perspective is, I don't have enough time. So what do you think? Because I know all of this is mindset, right? It's how we perceive.
That's all mindset.
Everything. So what do you think gave you that catalyst to decide, I'm not going to let this happen anymore. I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm going to end up having to work more hours. Did you talk to your wife about that? What do you think was the catalyst to make that decision to just go, I'm going to make this happen?
Well, first, because what happened with my boss, that catalyst of not having control over my time and not even being able to attend my son's birthday party was just like, it was ridiculous, And I was so angry. I was really angry. So I made a decision right then that I didn't know what I was going to do exactly or how I was going to make this happen, but I was going to be my own boss, and I wasn't going to work for somebody again. And and luckily I was already introduced to Primerica, so I didn't really get involved in it. I didn't do anything until that happened. So sometimes people need a push, if you will, right? And that was the push for me. That was the thing where kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, where I decided now I'm going to figure out how to make it happen for my family and for me. And luckily, in our business, people were even at that when I first got started, which is almost 40 years ago, people were making really big money. The guy that got that ended up being direct to Mike Sharp he was making $800,000 a year back in 1984, which is a lot of money today, let alone 1984, right? That was probably like the equivalent of making $3 million a year or more, I'd say. But I saw that he was doing that well, and he was just a nice guy. He wasn't anything extraordinary. And I felt, well, if he figured out how to do it, I could figure out how to do it. And so then I went to work and did the work to figure out how to do it, how to get great at the business. And then, I think the thing that allowed me to have the most success is I'm very good at teaching people how to do what I do. I think if you're going to become successful at any business, you have to duplicate yourself. You you can't do it all yourself. You need to have other people, helping and being involved. And so I learned how to, I think my claim to fame is I'm very good at training people and teaching people how to do what I did. And I think if you're going to grow up any kind of business, you have to duplicate yourself. It can't just be you, because there's only so many hours in a given day, right? 24 hours in a day, and you can't be everywhere at all the time. You have to have other people.
You often say that you're not a motivational speaker, you're a teacher, but right. It is motivating because you teach. And so you're one of the most motivational speakers I've ever listened to, because I know when I go to Hector's meeting or I listen to Hector Lamarque, I'm getting taught how to actually freaking do it,
Getting results is sure motivating.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's, I would talk about this all the time. If you really want to motivate your people, teach them how to be successful, because, that's what both of you guys did. You did the work to learn how to become successful, and you built, great businesses, and you made a lot of money. And that happens because you do the work to grow your skills and your knowledge, and then apply those to helping other people do that. So that's all I ever did. I mean, I'm not a motivator. I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a teacher. I always saw myself as a teacher.
Well, go ahead. I was going to say, one of the things I've noticed, Hector, and maybe you can comment on this, is a lot of times when you talk about getting great at something or becoming the best at somebody assumes that it's having this complicated knowledge, especially in the financial services industry like we're in. And what you did a great job of is taking that knowledge and simplifying it so that anybody believed that they could do it, and then go out and duplicate that process. Maybe you can comment on that a little bit, because I think it's powerful.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That's what I try to do, is try to teach it in such a way that because in a lot of things, like if you're going to be a doctor, for example, that's a very, very complicated business to be in. The amount of study you have to do to become, a great physician, surgeon, whatever, is not many people can do it, just from the educational standpoint, whatever. But in a sales business, anybody can do it. I don't care what business you're in. So, I was a very shy person before I got involved in Primerica. I see myself as I'm an introvert. I like being by myself. I don't have any problem being by myself. And so, because I was an introvert, I was always worried about what people thought about me. And when I decided I was going to become successful, I said, I've got to stop worrying about what people think. I got to get great at what I do, and then I got to teach some people how to do it. And that was the impetus and the focus I had and still have today, all those years. I focused on being great so that I could teach others to be great. And the thing I think it's important now, that's really helped me the most, is I stopped. In the beginning, I was trying to motivate people. I don't think you can motivate people. I think you can set an example and get people excited about doing something because they see what you're doing, or you could teach them the skill set so that they start having success on their own and be successful as a result of what you taught them how to do. But I stopped trying to motivate. When I stopped, it took me about almost 3 years. Into my third year, I was trying to motivate people. And then I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to just focus on finding motivated people. And then I'm going to teach them everything that I've done, everything that I'm doing to have the success I've had or I'm having. And that's what I focused on. So I stopped trying to get people to do it. I'd look for people's, if they were motivated, I could see that through their actions and their dedication and what all, then I would spend a lot of time with those individuals. And I stopped trying to get people to do it. And when I made that switch, that's when my business really took off. So like in 1980, what was it? 84, 85, 86 is when I really came to that conclusion, that sometime that year. So in my first year in the business, I made 18,000 part-time, working basically a couple of days a week. The second year I made 35,000. I was full-time. And that's when I become a regional vice president. And in my third year, I made 86,000 because I started developing. I made that switch to developing people versus trying to motivate people. And then the next year, I went from making 86,000 to making 409,000. And then the next year, I made 855,000. And if you look at that back today, this was like in 1988. That's the equivalent of, like I was saying, making $2 or $3 million a year back when I first got started in my fifth year. But the thing about that was I focused only on motivated people. And then I focused on teaching everything that I knew, everything that I was doing, everything that I did to those motivated people. And that's what really caused my business to explode. I think that was the big turning point. And I think most people, unfortunately, try to motivate people that aren't motivated, and that's like pouring water into a bucket with holes in it. It's a complete waste of energy.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we'll go out and we'll get the results, we'll set the track record, and that obviously proves that we know what the heck we're even doing. Mm-hmm. And then my goal is I was kind of just following your system and following how everything was to establish that track record, almost to the point where people would then go, "What are you doing?" Yep. Then I knew they were motivated to actually listen because they saw the results and they saw me making money, they saw me closing sales and all that, right? And I learned that from you. Now, Hector, during that time, I know that you were working a lot, and I know that I think sometimes people are always trying to avoid the work, and they're just the more you try to avoid the work, the longer the journey is going to take. In fact, it'll never happen.
Correct.
So you weren't doing that. You were working very hard. Take us through that a little bit. I mean, how did you manage that during that time? I mean, obviously, when we're young and we're fired up, we're excited, we have a purpose, we can go work hard and have a ton of energy to do it. But sometimes, we might have a spouse who's not totally supporting us yet, or we've got kids that we've got to make sure that we're being good dads or good moms if you're a woman out there. Mm-hmm. Talk about just the dynamics of that time, because you were, back then we didn't have cell phones. you were driving all over Southern California, putting on meetings all the time, on appointments every single night. You were leading your bay shop. You had a big bay shop, 100, 150 sell a month life insurance sales bay shop for 10 plus years and beyond that even. And a lot of people do that for a couple of years, and then they think they've done enough. So you did it and you continue to do it. So maybe just talk about that a little bit. I think that could be helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm looking back, and there's a guy named Willie Naranjo that I've been mentoring for several years now, and he's just absolutely killing it. He's doing exactly what I wish I would have done. I let up too soon as far as I'm concerned, but I've done well, but I could have, I think I could be making $10 million a year right now if I would have just did what I know now I should have done. So I kind of counseled Willie in doing that, and he's killing it. So I think, I think the thing is you have to kind of know what you want out of your life, because everybody has a different idea of what a great life is, and there's no right or wrong answer with that. I don't know, everybody has their own journey in life. I think the biggest thing for me is whatever it is for you, just focus on being great at it, great at what you do. Don't focus on anything but being really great. And when money follows greatness, and you're going to do great if you do that. So that has been my MO for as long as I can remember. I'm still, every day if you follow me on Twitter, you should follow me on Twitter, because I put out really great material on Twitter, and I do it every day. I do it 7 days a week. And I don't just do it for people that are following me. I do it for myself. A lot of what I'm doing is to keep me energized about becoming better and becoming, the kind of person that I want to become, and to help other people do that as well. So